How's it going, everybody? I am just going to join in this YouTube video for a little discussion. I hope that my content is proving helpful for some of you. The reason that I have this channel and the reason that I do the content the way that I do is because, like, when I start with a topic and don't really know where I'm going to go with that topic, I realize that sometimes it might not be this orderly, perfect argument that is concise. And but I want this to be a free flowing form to discuss certain topics, because I believe, like, I want to give the Holy Spirit room to move in these discussions. And I also just feel like, uh, as I learned so much from YouTube videos and so much from all these people, and I just want mine to be a simplified form. If it's like something that's interesting for you, that you like the things that I talk about, um, realize I've spent a lot of time thinking about these things beforehand, but sometimes I just come up with the idea. And today the discussion is going to be a little bit on the dark side, and so I really don't want to focus on things that are dark and things that are not of God, but I think that it's important to discuss kind of the mechanics of things, like not exploring too much the schemes of the enemy or the kingdom of darkness. Like, I don't want to know exactly how it operates, because then I would have to involve myself in the occult, which I'm not going to do, because I'm forbidden to do that, right? But the things that I want to expound on in this video and reveal are things that I believe God has revealed to me, and just probably to all of us, that we know in our heart of hearts is true. And so it's so chaotic. The occult world is so chaotic that this video might seem chaotic, and it might seem to some people like nonsense. And I might talk about some things that people who are watching this video may support or may enjoy. And so if I brush up against a subject or a topic, or some sort of like book or movie, or something that is interesting you, or that you um, like, realize I'm not trying to attack you or say that you're involved with the occult, or that you have opened a door for the occult into your life. Um, but moreover, just to, like, kind of show how, like, angels who are anti-Christian or anti-Christ can influence our thinking, and uh, can actually teach us messages through different mediums, right? And if you think about that word medium, you have uh, you have like the idea of a medium is somebody who can channel the spirits of the dead, or um, the spirit of an angel, right? And can dictate messages that they don't know themselves, but they're just basically being used as a vessel. And and in a way, as a Christian, we can be seen almost as like a medium for God, because we bring messages from God to the world. And so, like, we're the temple of the Holy Spirit, and we've been given the mind of Christ, and God directs our steps. And there's so like, but obviously, uh, we're not channeling demons or spirit of the dead or things like that, which mediumship was always forbidden in the Old Testament, in Deuteronomy and Leviticus, and other places too. So the word medium is interesting, because, like, we have various mediums that we use to get information. I'm not saying that every one of these is being used as a channel for demonic entities. I think they are, but I'm not saying that, like, when you use these tools, you are engaging in that type of mediumship. Like tools like the internet, right? Because the internet, you can definitely say that, like, you can use it for purposes that are not of God, right? And it's a medium, right? So it's a way that you learn information, let's say on Google, or you can use it as a medium to see into the lives of other people, what's going on with social media. You can use it as a medium for all sorts of things, to watch television, and television itself is a medium for people to get messages that they've written and compiled a story to make look as close to reality as possible, and to give you that story to show it to you so that you're able to obtain that information and that knowledge. So a story like let's say Lord of the Rings, for example, is not a real part of history, yet it's such a huge part of our modern culture. It's almost like a mythology that was created by J.R.R. Tolkien to emphasize certain truths that he knew about humanity, and in a way it really does. It is a very profound story, and so when we watch Lord of the Rings, it really speaks to our heart, and it speaks to true things in our heart, because things like the ring, people like Frodo and Gandalf, they're meant to portray different aspects of what reality is. So these stories are not reality, yet they form a part of the way we view reality. And so different stories and the philosophies from which they emerge, whether they're godly or godless or somewhere in the middle, they're going to constitute a part of the way that we interpret reality, the way that we see things, and the lens that we have. And you can see how that has influenced culture. And the reason that I'm doing this whole video, frankly, I am interested in this. Not interested in the occult, because screw the occult, but I'm interested in this idea that, like, the occult is not just this mystical dark art pentagram sacrificing rabbits and drinking their blood, and that's probably a part of it, like Satanism and death metal and this really dark demonic stuff. That's sometimes when we think of what the occult is, like witchcraft and wizardry and etc. That's what we project onto it. But I think that it would really surprise us and actually disturb us to realize that it's much more complicated than that, and also more simple at the same time. It's able to influence us in ways that we really can't even begin to imagine. And so the reason that I did this video was because last night I was watching a movie that I really actually do enjoy, and some people might judge me for this, but it's a very entertaining movie. I was watching it, and as I was watching it with my roommate, I was like, whoa, like, I was gonna leave after this scene because I really enjoy this scene, and then the next scene, that scene ends, because I've seen this movie a number of times, and I know that the next scene that comes up is also really entertaining or exciting. It has action, or it has like something funny that happens. And this movie is the Avengers Endgame, and I've done another video on superhero movies, and not trying to say like, oh, they're demonic, like you if you're watching them you're engaging in the demonic, but just to like identify some of the themes that are in these movies, and really interesting. And so sometimes, like, after I go through my day, and I lay down to go to sleep, I sometimes process my day, and I think God helps me with this process and shows me like some of the meaning that happens behind my day. And I was really thinking about the Avengers, because I've already talked about the Avengers. I've talked about Thanos's, like how they make Thanos to look like this mock god character who he even says I am, and he has these priests that say, like, when they kill people, they go around and kill people, and they say, even in death you have become children of Thanos. And and then you have the Avengers, and obviously one of the names of Satan is an Avenger. And so people who say like you're reading too much into this, like, trust me, like I really don't care that much about the Avengers or about the storyline or the plot, nor do I think that the writers were in some way sort of trying to sneak in this hidden message to manipulate people and to bring up the next generation into like an anti-God culture, and to like shape an anti-God culture out of the next generation. But I think that idea and that possibility remains behind the teachings of some of the mediums that we put in front of our eyes, and that regardless of the human regardless of our human desire to write a story that is not, not, it's spiritually neutral, these stories can be used to communicate a message through us to other people, and we can be used as man, this sounds wild, but we can be used as mediums to reach other people, through writing, through what we make, through what our hands make. And that makes us think of idols, because what is an idol? It's a deity that is made by the hands of people, and it's meant to worship and meant to communicate messages. But obviously the Bible says these deities have mouths but they can't speak, eyes but they can't see, ears but they can't hear. Or not deities, these idols, right? But then there was also a demonic presence or demonic force that was often behind the idol. Man, there's so many places we can go here, but it's really interesting. So I was just thinking about the Avengers, and just a fascinating story, with real, like, the most fascinating part of the story is the characters themselves, especially some of the Avengers characters. And I was thinking about Iron Man, and so there's going to be spoilers in this. So if you haven't seen this already, watch it, and then you can watch this video and see what I have to say about it. But Iron Man is, basically he's just half man, half technology, and he represents one man's total mastery over technology, and the emergence with man and technology. In the end game, he's mastered his technology so much that he's created it, like it kind of lives within his clothes almost, and he's able to push a button, and then obviously this isn't happening, this isn't real, but it represents an idea of like where we are today with technology and where we are going, human beings with technology, and the ability that through technology we can become some sort of it represents to me the idea of transhumanism, that through technology we can overcome our human limitations, right? And so he pushes a button, and I can't remember the name for the type of technology that he's able to create, and he becomes the Iron Man, and he becomes this almost indestructible person, and he is probably the best Avenger. He is the one who is always even if he's not considered the leader of the Avengers. You have Captain America, who is that, like, who Captain America has his own interesting sets of superpowers. Just the idea of a superpower, that we are given some sort of ability that makes us better than we were before, makes us a hero, makes us almost godlike in a sense. Makes you think of that promise, we will be as gods. And so you have Thor, who's actually a demigod, and he comes from, I think it's like Norse mythology or something. Anyways, I didn't want to spend my whole time talking about superheroes in this, but just like the modern day mythologies of superheroes, and with the idea of technology, and the whole loaded question of that is a very interesting concept. And so the idea of Iron Man, he's a sort of Christ-like figure in the movie of the Avengers. He has the ability, like, he's both man and as God, right? He has the ability sacrifice his life in order to save all of humanity, and that's what he does at the end of the Avengers, right? He lays down his life so that everybody else can be saved, and he's the only one who's able to do that because of this power that he has inside of him, which is his own intellect, which and his own ability to merge with creation, and so or merge with technology. So I think like a story like that has some extra spiritual emphasis on the subject matter, right? There's some spiritual ideas that are behind it, and I'm not saying that it was the writer's intention to put that behind it. I've written stories when I was young and I didn't know God, that I was just trying to tell a cool story that I thought was interesting, but when I look back over it, I'm like, wow, that really tells about what I thought about God and what I thought about His Spirit, or what I thought in my spirit about who God is and who I am, and that I didn't believe in God, and that I was actually in rebellion against God. And so the things that we create can reveal those things about us. And if we're not a part of God's family, then we can be used by other influences. Despite our best efforts not to, we can be used. I mean, there's no such this is a political concept, but I think it does also works for spiritual ideas too. There's no such thing as neutrality, because what I think about neutrality is being right in the middle. If you're neutral, and you're on a perfectly stable horizontal plane, you're not going to roll in either direction. But as soon as you tilt that plane even slightly, you'll start rolling, right? And so there's no such thing as neutrality. We're not on a neutral plane in the spiritual world. Like, we're going to be rolling. We're going to be going in some sort of direction, and so you can kind of look at all these things and see just like the way that the occult has been able to operate. And I say the occult without even really knowing what that word means, but that's like right now where we are, and with this technology and this ability almost to create life, a life created by us without obviously the image of God status. It would be created in the image of man. And so what is behind the image of man? Well, you have the knowledge of good and evil. And so that knowledge presents again a balance and a scale that's that can be tipped in either direction and go really far, really fast in either direction. And so we have that within us. And so when we create life from non-life, like AI, from zeros and ones, that's going to have the knowledge of good and evil, but it's going to be even less human, right? It's going to have less of a propensity for knowledge, because it's not going to have that ability to differentiate between those things. So we have this emergence of technology and humanity that is really an interesting time to be living in, and it's fascinating. And I don't want to just do this to speculate. There's also the desire of human beings to grasp for the knowledge of everything, to reach past in a sort of intellectual pride, to reach into the stars. And we've always had that living with us, even in the Babylonian culture, in ancient Mesopotamia, you had people were very fascinated with the stars, and that's kind of where astrology came from, and magic and all these sorceries and practices that are actually detailed in cuneiform inscriptions, the most ancient writings that we know of, that come from the building of pyramids and ziggurats and everything. It's almost ridiculous when you think about it, but to recognize, look, that part of humanity that Genesis chapter 11 talks about was the chaos and the confusion of languages that he came and separated people from that point, because he saw that although we were in this, like, we were in our own heads saying, look at what we're building, isn't this amazing, isn't this cool, like now we could say, look at this technology, we can, like, we're making the most amazing ways to tell stories in movies and film. We're making we can almost like manipulate time, and if we can't manipulate time yet, we can show the most likely way that it would be manipulated through this advanced storytelling method, which is film. Like in Avengers, they're able to use modern physics and science to enter into this quantum realm, and to manipulate time and to travel through time, because they enter into a subatomic universe and are able to, zip around and then exit that subatomic universe at a different point in space and time. And so like the way that we're able to portray that actual reality is actually very powerful right now. So powerful that it's like you're watching this TV and you're like, whoa, I'm actually seeing this happen. And so it's a mythology, and you realize you can still differentiate it from reality. That, look, okay, time travel's impossible, but at the same time, there's a part of you that realizes, look, this happened. It's a part of our modern day mythology, and so it becomes a part of us and a part of the way that we interpret the world. And so, ingrained in that is this transhumanistic idea that we can break past the barriers that we have, and we can build up to this amazing power. And that is the heartbeat that was behind Babel, in the creation of the towers, in the creation of these stories, the confusion of languages, the desire of humanity to push towards one ultimate overarching goal. And I've studied some of the literature from that time and that area and that place, which was this beautiful paradise. It had these massive the first civilization. People were very advanced for that time, and in their knowledge, in their abilities, but and so a lot of people look at that time and they say, wow, we got so much of what we have now from the Babylonians, from the Mesopotamians, from the Sumerians. But from God's perspective, there was this spiritual darkness that was behind it all, and that was blocking people from seeing God. And actually, there was interplay between human beings and angels, fallen angels, that were manipulating people's worships, causing them to worship nature, causing them to worship demons as being responsible for nature. And that was some of the first instances, of idolatry that we were able to see. And so, very, very interesting topic here. But the other thing that I wanted to just recognize was that that spiritual darkness God saw as being futile, but also as being dangerous to us. Not that he didn't want us to know things, but he saw the unlimited human reach and human capacity as being dangerous, which is initially in the Garden of Eden. That's why he had to bar people from going back into the garden to eat from the tree of life. Right now in transhumanism, the idea is that we maybe will be able to one day enhance the human genome so that we can defeat disease and maybe even defeat death. But what we know as Christians is that death is not only the physical act of dying, it's also a spiritual condition. And so what you would do if you were able to enhance the human body so that we would never die would be to imprison the spiritual condition of death inside a perpetually prolonged biological life. And so that idea was first talked about almost in the garden, because people had gained this knowledge of good and evil, and then they had been shamefully clothed themselves with fig leaves, and God actually had to bar them access from reaching for eternal life. Otherwise, they would have forever imprisoned this sinful nature within themselves, which we know that God released his people from that prison through Christ. And so also in the Tower of Babel, you have that same type of thing. Human beings as a collective civilization reaching towards the power of the heavens, reaching towards this unlimited power, God recognizing that although, because we couldn't see because of our spiritual darkness, he came in and frustrated our languages, scattered people from there, and that's from where you have the Table of Nations and all civilizations that ever came from that one moment in time. And so living within us and a part of our sin nature is both that individual knowledge of good and evil and that collective Babel mentality. And I've talked about this so much, but I think it's very important for Christians to grasp, and a lot of Christians aren't realizing that that's a part of what's behind everything, and everything that's driving culture and driving things away from God, right? And it's very core to who we are, and so in in the book of Ephesians, Paul says, I tell you this, and I insist on it in the Lord, that you must no longer live as the Gentiles do in the futility of their thinking. They are darkened in their understanding and alienated from the life of God because of the ignorance that is in them due to the hardening of their hearts. So you get this sense of spiritual darkness. And obviously, and Jesus says, if the light in you is darkness, how great is that darkness? And he is the light that came into the world, it says in John 1. But people hated the light, and they did not understand the light. And so they tried to put the light out, right? The spiritual forces of darkness, too, tried to put the light out. But the wisdom from God was hidden from the world for ages. It says this in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, that the wisdom of God was hidden and from the rulers of this age, and if they had known it, they would not have crucified Jesus, because by humility, by humbling himself beneath the powers of this world, that's how he was able to triumph over this system of futility and basically triumph over the occult, right? And so that's why the gospel, though it is hidden from people, you know, when you tell people the gospel, they will often laugh at you or think you're stupid, right? Because the cross of Christ is foolishness to the world, but it's wisdom to those who are being saved. So it's hidden, but it is actually more real than the things that we are able to touch, taste, see, and feel, like the things that we set in front of our eyes, because those things are often short-sighted. And if we place all of our intention and all of our will into the things of those, that's why Christ says if you build your life on that type of foundation, it's like building it on sand, and it's going to erode. And so if you put everything that you are into those things, that's why at the end it's going to be tested by fire, and it's going to corrode. So anyways, I hope this has been a helpful discussion, and I hope that it helps you to understand maybe a little bit more about the way that the occult operates through mediums, and might be a little bit more pervasive in our world than we would like to think. And yeah, let me know what you think in the comments.